In my last video, I did a detailed kind of theoretical look at this time management system by Mark Forster and how I fed that list with my email workflow. And a lot of you wanted to see an actual example of what the time management system itself looked like. So in this video, I'm going to demonstrate the whole process of how to use this system by Mark Forster. Now, this one is called rezero. Now, Mark Forster has made loads of different time management systems. They're all equally fascinating and all incredibly insightful and show this deep understanding of how our minds work and how to overcome the barriers, procrastination, and all of these kinds of resistance barriers that we come across when we're dealing with processing a to-do list. And Mark's time management systems are absolutely focused on dealing with that, and they achieve it, in my mind, in so many interesting and effective ways. Now, this list actually is a recreation of my original list. All these tasks are now long done, but I've rewritten it here so I can show how that process works. Now, these are actually phrased in the way that I wrote them, but I've just omitted the client names. So in real life, this list would have started with my client names or client sort of abbreviations that I use just to remind myself of which client these tasks might be for, but here I've just rewritten the task without the client names for privacy, obviously. So if you're new here, I'm Ben Valak and I'm a software developer, and I use this channel to kind of explore that developer mindset and apply it to all areas of day-to-day life and look at optimizing various workflows. And over the last few months, I've moved away from taking freebies and sponsorship on this channel because I want to make it more just about what it originally set out to do, which is just sharing the things I'm thinking about and the things I'm doing. So now more than ever, I'm super appreciative of the members on this channel. There seems to be more and more of you coming on board, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. So thanks so much for that. So let's get into this process of how this works in real life. So I've moved all of these tasks from wherever they came to me from. Now, normally this is just email. So I have obviously this email processing workflow, which I looked at in the other video. So I take the tasks out of the emails and then I move the emails into the action folder, and I'll put the tasks onto this list. So obviously you just add new tasks at the end of your list here. So after a little while, you'll end up with essentially an empty inbox and all of the work that you need to do on this list. And the way you then process it according to the rules of this rezero system by Mark Forster is you start at the last one and you read every one. And if any of them stand out as not having any resistance at all, rezero stands for resistance zero. So you're looking for items with no resistance, items that you feel totally happy just jumping in and getting done. So you might say, okay, that one you'll come back to another day, you'll skip that. So you move on to this next one. Okay, you're ready to do that one. So you give it a little dot and then you read the next one. And the key is making sure you read everyone. You're not skipping over any, and you're not sort of getting halfway and then going back and starting on the ones you've dotted. You do need to go to the very beginning. And that process of looking at each item is part of the way that these items then have their resistance reduced for the next time you're ready to process the list. So you'll read them one at a time and you keep going, and you might say that one's easy, let's just do that one. And then you keep looking at every single one, you're reading each one, we'll do that one as well. And then you might think that's enough of a pre-selected list for you to be getting on with, but you must then just carry on and read all of these just to make sure. You might find one that stands out and you'll dot that one as well. So then you're ready for the kind of day's work, and you make a start on this first one from the end here. So you do that, and then once it's done, you can just put a line through it like that, and then you'll go on to your next dotted one. So then you do some work on this. Now, this business of doing some work on the task, you don't have to complete these. If you feel like you've done enough work on it, maybe you want to get onto these other ones, or you've spent enough time and you feel like you've made good enough progress and you're happy with your progress on this, you can just cross it out and then write it in at the very end again. It may be that at that point in time you rephrase it slightly, but you can just keep doing that, and just this little and often approach can often be a really good way of getting through a bigger task. But quite often it's this rephrasing of your tasks in this list that makes this work really well. Sometimes you'll have an item on here that hangs around and never really feels like it's resistance zero. And in that case, you might just want to cross it out and rephrase it. Maybe just change it to something like do 5 minutes on this task. And then that makes it have less resistance and you can get started on it. So then we'll finish off this one and we'll mark that as done. And then we're ready to go back to the end. Now, in this period of time, you may well have done another round of processing your emails. You may well have then had new items added at the end, in which case you'll obviously go down to the very end and start from there. Some of those may be urgent, in which case you might feel that they get a dot straight away. And now this is interesting. Obviously, some people will find the urgency an extra element of resistance. For me, I think most of the urgent things that are sort of, considered urgent in my workflow tend to be more smaller things, if they're just like a little fix or something, and I feel I can just quickly get them done. So when an urgent thing for me comes on, I feel quite happy just to tick that and work on that sooner rather than later. And it's sort of like a nice way of escaping having to work on some of these older ones which may have more resistance. So is this sort of ADHD mindset thing where the way this list is processed kind of uses the way your mind approaches resistance to tasks to actually get other tasks done. So you're kind of, and this is what stands out with Mark Forster's systems, is this understanding of the way your mind works in terms of dealing with resistance to tasks. And it's so fascinating seeing how his systems sort of deal with that, and they all achieve different things in different ways. So this is just one approach. His other lists will do things, you'll look at the list in the other order completely, and you'll have different criteria for deciding on what makes a pre-selected item and so on. So you then just go through the list and do the same thing. Of course, you'd tick another bunch, pre-select another bunch of tasks, and then work on them in this order again. And as time goes on, you'll find that the ones with the most resistance become kind of isolated in amongst lots of other crossed out tasks, and that in itself reduces the resistance to getting it done, because you just want to cross it out. You see this item by itself in a list of other crossed out items, and you have this inclination to cross it out and get it done. So there's this very natural process, and actually I've found this, I'm about sort of 4 pages into this now in real life, and I'm not leaving anything behind. It's amazing how those old tasks are all getting done. Absolutely a fantastic approach here. So if you haven't seen the other video where I looked in more detail at the whole system and the sort of other ideas of Mark Forster and my email processing routine, do check that one out, and I'll see you there.